Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Eric Lawson. And
Hi, guys.
Hello, and Richard Trejo.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, and so you guys are working on Holly Hatchet, which is an anthology, or part of an anthology in body count.
That's right. Just started a couple weeks ago, so I guess I'll hand that off to Richard and he can let you guys know how that's been going. I mean, I wrote the script, but he's directing it. He's the general on the field, as it were, for that.
Yeah, we started I believe it was last Saturday, shooting it, and it's really good because it was a good way to start it because it's the intro piece, and the intro is very it's like it's actiony, if you will. Like everything is kind of like it just starts from the get-go. So shooting it like the way that I always envisioned it, like when I read the script, is like vampires in general. I'm a massive fan of vampires. And what I wanted to do is introduce like the various like looks of like different types of like vampire movies. So like the first initial look that I wanted for the beginning was like this like gritty, almost like clinical look. And so like we accomplished that like with this first stuff that we shot. So I'm excited to definitely get back. We start shooting again on the 17th. And I'm excited to get back in there and kind of like form the rest of the look that like what I envisioned, which is like just embracing like, various, looks of previous like vampire films. Like I'm a massive fan of like The Lost Boys. I love that cool, warm look. And then I also love like the dead look of like 30 Days of Night, like how everything is just robbed of color. Everything is just like, it's mostly just about like the blood popping, which is like, which those two in particular, those are two of like my favorite vampire flicks. And
that was one of the last like scary vampire movies, I think, because they really went into the more romantic side of the vampires, and then 30 Days a Night really took it back to being like the horror movie.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah,
30 Days a Night is like is to me is an extremely scary movie. That's like one of the I don't get scared by a lot of movies these days, just, especially like horror films. I watch so many of them, and I've been in the horror business now for such a good amount of time that like now it's hard to scare me. So I think what I try and do is for scares is I try to like embrace like a look of like, things that scared us in our past. Because I feel like those are the things that stick in my brain that help me get to like, a place where I can be like immersed enough to like get frightened. So that's what we're definitely trying to accomplish, or what I'm trying to accomplish with the look of this movie. So the first day we shot looks great. It's definitely right on par with what I envisioned. And a great script too. That's
thank you.
Yeah.
I'll actually just piggyback on what Richard said too. And 30 Days of Night was definitely a huge influence on a story that I wanted to tell about vampires slowly kind of descending onto a town and kind of, in that film, knocking out the power and then going basically like house to house, building to building. And that's something that the longer version of the script that I wrote, I really wanted to incorporate. And also another aspect is Ash versus Evil Dead. I really needed kind of a female badass character that they kind of find their tools and their weapons along the way. But I wanted that just rapid fire humor. You're in danger, but you're still you have enough time to be snarky to the people that the band you're with is getting smaller and smaller and smaller of the survivors, but you still have time to just dish out humorous lines here and there. I think that it's going to come together really well. I'm pretty happy with everything we've got going so far.
You mentioned a longer version of the script. Did you originally write it as a feature?
I originally wrote it as kind of like a let's say like a one act, a little bit longer version of what we're shooting now, and just to make it realistic to fit into the anthology format, I kind of knocked it down from about like 20, 25 pages down to about 15, 16. It's got to fit. It's got to fit into what we're working on. And then I do have a longer version that, hopefully someday we can get that made into a feature.
So had you two worked together before?
No, have not.
No, this is our first time working together. Yeah.
So how did that come about?
Brought together by Jennifer Nangle, who also portrays Malvolia, Queen of Screams, Queen of the Night. She's probably the biggest go-getter of anybody I've met in independent horror in terms of like, she can just magically pull projects together in terms of like locations, budgets, GoFundMes. She knows great crew, actors, special effects artists. And so she had posted online that she was looking for stories earlier this year for the anthology, and that's where I pitched the Holly Hatchet, and she loved it right away.
Richard mentioned you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. I was just gonna say, yeah, Jen, I've known for like 6 years now, and so like I was there when like the culmination of like Malvolia, like when she had originally sent the script over, like the concept for like, hey, I have this idea for doing like like a horror hostess, and I just need I need someone to shoot it. So so I've been there. I've been there with Jen for a bit. So like whenever she calls me up, I always try and do whatever I can, because she's a hard worker. She knows what she wants, and she's a great collaborator. Like she's always open to like ideas as long as they're good. Like if there's any bad ideas, Jen will be like, I don't know about that, but like
you don't know if they're good or bad until you hear them first. So
yeah. She's very accommodating, and it's great to work with her because she loves collaboration.
When you said about like different kinds of vampires, so Holly Hatchet will have like several different types of vampires in the short.
It's mostly just for me visually.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that there's different types. It's more just I should have been a little more clear with that. Like in my head, like when I'm building like the visual foundation of like a project as like a DP, in this case also a director, I like to, like I mentioned earlier, I like to attach my own type of like, in my head, in my subconscious, what it is that frightened me about vampire movies. So it's like when I'm building like a visual foundation of the story as like a cinematographer, I want to like incorporate those things. And in this case, it's kind of like more of like the style and the look is kind of what's going to lead you into the scene. And that's what's going to help like immerse it just more. It's more for me. It's just like the world building in it.
So Eric, when he told you like his ideas for the vampire, like was that how did you envision the vampires looking when you're writing it?
I kind of envisioned them basically just looking a little bit basically like people, but also I know we're going to do some prosthetics, the fake teeth, everything like that. So I'm kind of just trusting also in the wonderful Julia Hafney, who's our special effects makeup artist.
She's great too, former guest on the show.
Yeah. Julie Hafney is amazing. I've known her for a while too, so I know that anything she does is gonna blow us all away.
And that's just kind of like speaking to what Richard was saying about collaboration. It's just I can have something in my mind on paper, but we've also got to make a movie, which is like we've got to realistically what we can do, how we can do it, and to pull it off, to make it look realistic and fun too for the film. You just have to go with it and trust the people you're working with, and I think it's going to be pretty special. I'm pretty happy.
Well, when Richard mentioned that Jennifer is she has a lot of she's open to like ideas. I would assume that when you're writing something, you have to be that way too, because if you're too like dedicated to it, and then someone else is directing and stuff, you're going to butt heads a lot.
Oh yeah, one of the conversations I had with her, and I've had with other collaborators too, which is it doesn't matter so much. At a certain point, it has to go from being, my story to your movie. Like I have to give up the ghost, so to speak, and just kind of say like, okay, well, how do we make this work? How can we make this from like the page come? Because there's going to be things, and Richard will probably agree with me too on this. There's going to be things that come up on the day that you're filming, and you're going like, oh, well, with the location we have and this and that and the props, we got to work on a go around. We got to figure out something to make this work, because something you write on the page doesn't necessarily translate exactly to film.
Yeah, that's true. And like most of like filmmaking, and especially within the independent world, is like when you get there and you're like, rehearsing, you're going through things. A lot of times too, it's like the actors, they'll go through the material and they'll be like, hey, I feel like in this moment, like maybe this isn't something I would say, or maybe this, I would react this way. So it's kind of about like, that's where like the collaboration thing comes in, especially within, indie filmmaking. It's mostly where like your actors are going to help, the writer does one thing, which is build you your world, right? You build you the world to play in. The director comes in and just kind of helps facilitate all that and get all the pieces together to make everyone comfortable enough to play. And that's what, with what we just shot, the intro that we shot for Holly Hatchet, that's what it was. It's like when we got there, we rehearsed for like an hour, just going over everything, getting everyone comfortable with like their motivation, like why their characters are the way they are, why they're making their decisions. So it's like, it becomes a whole different world at that point too, because you start to realize like, oh, well, my character would, react this way, or my character would do this. And it's also doing it, in a way that's still respectful of like, the gospel we've been given, which is, the story.
Yeah. Is there any connection between the stories and and body count?
I believe that the Malvolia character is the connecting thread, and
like
just like her going through the story and either being detained or stopped, or her telling the stories of each individual anthology to characters in the story that she's interacting with.
Yeah, I believe that's the case with all of them. You're right.
Yeah, because sometimes you see anthology, especially the last like 10 years or so, and they're really like a bunch of shorts that were already existed, and they kind of put them together, which I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I do like, I'm not saying they have to be like a continuing story, but there is something about if there's some type of that they kind of share, like there's something about them where they are connected.
Like a bookend or a wraparound. Like
yeah.
I'm a fan of like the old Creep Show.
Yeah, actually, right here is the first VHS tape my mom ever bought me. Is a Creep Show.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Right now, but
yeah, I like that kind of where a character or two at the beginning is either telling part of the story, or they're going into or out of one of the anthologies, and at the end there's this big like reveal.
Yeah.
Or something, and you're like,
I'm glad
I like that too.
Yeah, I'm glad anthologies have become popular again, because I love Creep Show and like the original Tales from the Crypt. And,
Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, there was even was it a movie called Tales from the Dark Side?
Yeah, before the show or after the show.
Is that the one with where Steve Buscemi had the mummy?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best looking mummies in movies.
Yeah, that was a badass.
Yeah,
mummy.
It's really creepy looking.
Dude, one of my favorite Tales from the Dark Side episodes, or like within the anthology, is with James Remar and Ray Don Chong, and James Remar is like an artist, and he meets like one night he meets like a gargoyle or something, and the gargoyle says like, oh, I'll give you whatever you want, like fame and everything, if you don't mention me, or you don't talk about meeting me or our thing. And that's like, to this day, that's one of my favorite like love stories / like just like I love the way that kind of like that whole story plays out. Yeah. That's one of my favorite episodes in that anthology.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought that up, because I think that's a really underrated anthology.
Yeah, I agree. You don't really hear about it too much.
Yeah, and we were talking beforehand about vampires being scary again. And like a lot of modern mummies, they don't even look like mummies. So it was cool that it's like an old school, mummy he's slow and he's creeping. He looks like he's all, emaciated and dry and sexy.
It's like the
vampire. I mean, sexy mummy flying.
It's like that's why I love Monster Squad so much.
Yeah,
because like they're all like the old school monsters. The vampire looks like Dracula. The Wolfman is like the Wolfman standing on two legs still, still half man, half wolf. The mummy is like decrepit and, like that. The mummy to me was like the least intimidating thing about that movie. Like that whole scene, like how they
just kind of,
he moves so slow and so like, I love that. I love that things are starting to come back and be like scary and not just like the glittery romantic vampire. Like I love like a good brutal vampire. Like, and you can have the best of both worlds, like Lost Boys, right?
Yeah.
Lost Boys was like, like a bunch of like good looking people together that also like when it came down to it, they were brutal killers. So it's like I think you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have a great saxophone.
Yeah, exactly, man. I've made it a point that like in every movie that I write and that I do, like that I'm going to be directing, I have to have a sexy shirtless, saxophone player. I have to. I think it's a must.
I'm all
now.
aboard, yeah. And he's a great guy. For the name escapes me at the moment, but he's a really cool guy, and he really has fun with that. If you see him at conventions, he's shirtless with his saxophone.
Yeah, it's like capoeira or something like that. I can't remember his name, but he was Tina Turner's saxophone player.
Yeah, I had an interview with him, and I had him on thinking it would just be fun. We talk about the song, but it's like a 2-hour interview, and it's about his whole career, and he's a really interesting guy.
Yeah, no, totally. He seems like he loves playing the sax,
Yeah.
Very cool. I for one, I was going to kind of talk about what you were mentioning just a minute ago, but when it comes to a lot of these monster flicks, I am really glad that we're kind of getting away from the actual monster themselves being all CGI.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know that for a while it was like, look what we can do, but just because you can doesn't mean you should do it. And the reboot of The Mummy, the one with Tom Cruise, like The Mummy in that was pretty good. They got away from the one from like 20 years ago where it was just like, run away from the blue screen monster,
And boy, when you revisit those CG movies from like 20 years ago, boy, do they look bad now.
Oh yeah, I was just watching I don't know if I was drunk or something, but I was watching Van Helsing, and I was like, I really feel like I'm watching a video game. Like this movie should have been, look with the actors involved. I mean, this should have been such a better movie.
Mm-hmm.
It
was literally just run away from the blue screen monster.
You're right. Like I feel like CGI that was like when it was starting to like be big in like the blockbuster movie, and I feel like it was very subpar back then, and now even now though, I feel like everything just looks too clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a world where everything is now shot on a green screen stage, everything just looks too clean. It's kind of like the only real beef I had with like the new Hobbit movies is like, and I'm sorry, I know that's not horror, but there's horror elements, but I feel like, I feel like it's like that. Like, when you start trying to like creep into a realm where you're trying to make everything look perfect or everything look like incredibly like detailed, that's when it starts to me like, that takes away like the romance of it all, cause like, that's why film is so endearing, is because as film ages, the movie gets better. It's kind of like records, right? It's like vinyl.
Right.
And so like, I mean, there are a lot of great like digital cameras out there, and there's a lot of like looks you can still get, but I do feel like there is something about like a medium aging, with time.
I think especially with horror movies, because like I went to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 35 millimeter. And like it was a pretty bad cut, the film was degraded, but it added to that movie. And at the same theater, I saw it when they restored it, and like it looked pristine, but it actually took away from the movie. I thought like it looked better when you couldn't really see it as well.
More, it looks like documentary footage, right?
Yeah.
Like old like Super 8 footage. But one example of a similar story you're talking about, Richard was talking about Clean versus, and this is not a horror reference, but how bad is it that it's like the best, the most realistic, earthy version of the King Arthur story is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they're just covered head to toe in crap and straw and mud. And then you see something like that Sean Connery movie, First Night, where I'm like, they literally look like they just walked out of the prop shop onto the set, and like the metal is gleaming with reflections from the sun. Like, no, they just put on the costumes, and it's like, come on, man.
Everything
like,
is they're
comedy,
their teeth are perfect. Like it's like they already discovered. They discovered Colgate and Vidal Sassoon already.
That's like where that classic line comes from, Holy Grail, which is he's the king. Well, how do you know? He's the one who doesn't have shit all over him. And that still holds true. It's like, it's so sad that, however old that movie is, 45 years plus, that we haven't gotten back to a version of that story where it looks that real, that earthy. It's like, come on, man. I mean, it's like, what's what I love about horror films. And I'm a huge fan of atmospheric stuff in horror films. And I think I talked about this on my interview with Trista, that like Robert Eggers, that's a guy that's just crushing it. Like when you watch The Witch, you feel like you're there. Like you feel like when that family gets ostracized from the village and they have to go live out in the forest, like they're legitimately fucked. Like, they're going to give it their best shot, but if the supernatural stuff doesn't get them, the elements will, because like they're really, really there, And same with The Lighthouse. That's like a great H.P. Lovecraft twist on that story. And have you guys seen The Northman?
Yeah, I loved it.
Dude.
I saw it a couple twice in the theater. What was playing?
Man, talk about real.
The Northman is like in my top 5 movies of this year.
I agree.
Like I love The Northman. I love Eggers in general. Like you can, like everyone can say as much as they want that, like, that it's that everything is like, he's like a ostentatious director. I'm like, but the good ones were, right? Like,
he's on a tour,
you can say the same about Kubrick. You could say the same about Tarantino. You could say the same about a lot of directors that are just very passionate about their style and what it is they want.
World building. Like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that he's contemplating doing a remake of Nosferatu. That's the guy you want to do it. That's the guy you wanted who will actually go to a castle in Germany and just wreck fools. Like he would be beautiful, He
will have all his actors go there and they will live there for months before, and like,
they'll all get dental work and they'll file down.
They're like, now guys, nobody had perfect teeth back then, so we need to make sure we're 100% on this.
Everybody covers their fingernails.
I was going back real quick to the restoration stuff. I had one thing I wanted to mention. There's one restoration that I'm super happy with that they did, which is the 4K restoration of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
I haven't seen that. I love the movie, but I haven't seen the restoration.
The restoration of that one is actually very good. Like it doesn't look like too like perfect. It doesn't look incredibly like digital. It looks like you still have the grain, you still have the grittiness of the movie in there, but it just looks like now it's now the quality of it can, like, you can watch it on like your standard, like, big screen TV, and it looks perfect on there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look too perfect.
Yeah. Has either of you gotten out to see the restoration on the IMAX screening of Jaws?
Yeah, I saw it.
Not
3D.
yet.
I saw the 3D version.
Oh man, how was that?
It was awesome. I was torn which one to see, and I was like, well, I've never seen it I've seen it on the big screen, but obviously not IMAX. But I was like, well, I've never seen the 3D version because they just made it. So I was like, I'll go see that. And it really was done really well. Like,
there were some jumps in there with the 3D.
yeah. Like even the stuff that I've jumped at a million times with the head, and but in 3D it looked great.
Very cool.
That's good. I've heard that a couple times about the 3D conversion, which is dope. Like, that's great to hear. I think the last like thing I really enjoyed in 3D was Avatar. Like that was like the one thing I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the
even
last
simple stuff like on the beach. I think because there's so much depth there, like people out on the beach this way, everything looked really good in 3D.
Awesome.
That's great.
Shaw's was filmed not very far from me. I'm on Cape Cod near the.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Do they have conventions and things every year?
They have one on. I forget. There's 2 islands here, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. I can never remember which one it was filmed at. But yeah, every year they I don't think they have the last couple of years because of COVID, but they would do it. And it's mostly like technical people who worked on the film, but that's cool.
And again, that is a classic example of something we kind of touched on, maybe not completely, but it's that age-old problem with filmmakers with monsters, which is how much of the monster or the creature do you show? And that movie benefited so much by it breaking down so much that Spielberg had to think of ways to show the presence of the shark without the mechanical shark.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the one of that series that holds up the best.
Oh yeah, it's the best. And the obviously the three main guys, they're they knock it out of the park. But when people always talk about wanting to remake that, I'm like, no. I'm not against remakes in general. They make too many, but it's like there's nothing you could do that's going to make it better. Like it's going to be all CG like shark, and you're not going to find 3 actors that are going to be better. So
yeah, you're going to make a CGI shark or something. It's going to be lame, Because think about that scene where they have the pot roast on the chain and they throw it off the pier, and there's nothing there. It's just underwater, and then when it rips the part of the pier away, and then the pier just turns around. In your mind, you're just like, "Fuck, get out of the water!" And the guys trying to scramble up the part of it that's hanging in the water, and then it just eases right onto the beach.
Yeah,
and there's no shark. There's no shark.
Mm-hmm. Even low budget.
See that.
Go on, sorry.
Oh no, go for it.
I was gonna say even like low budget practical effects that don't necessarily look good have a charm to them. Where I think like bad looking CG is just bad. It's not even like fun. It's just this doesn't look good.
Oh yeah, and I'm a huge proponent and fan of the school of like John Carpenter and Sam Raimi, where it's just like the first Evil Dead movie, and they didn't have a steady cam, so they took like a 2x4 and some bungee cords and just strapped the camera, and they just had a guy on each side, and we're like, Bruce, just run. We'll tell you when to stop. And it looked so freaking cool to see the camera doing this and going through bushes and over the tops of rocks, and it's just like they made it work with what they had.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. That's like that, and that's where you find that's where you get your pioneers, as in indie filmmaking, because you just have to be like creative. You have to think outside of the box. And I love Raimi, and I love like what he did with Evil. I think Evil Dead 2 is probably like one of my favorite horror films, just because that movie is like that's what like patented that like smash zoom, like to really like heighten the effect of certain things and moments. So I'm a massive fan of Raimi, so I agree with you on that.
Have you guys seen Drag Me to Hell?
Oh yeah.
Mention it. That poor actress with the shot of the bile going right into her mouth, and she's just goes right into her. And you just see the jet of just gushing crap.
When people say you can't make good PG-13 horror, I always bring that up because it's PG-13. It's a really good movie.
Oh yeah,
it's true. It's true. What was it? Because like another really good PG-13 horror film for me was Last Exorcism, the faux documentary. I love, for some reason, I think that movie. It's a slow burn, but like it's so well done. Like by the time you get to the end, you're like, well, like once the dominoes start falling, then it's like, that's it. It's a snowball effect, right? It just goes. But I think that's like a really good PG-13 movie. But Drag Me to Hell is phenomenal because whereas like, you would just have like a completely gory movie, that movie is just like a gross out.
Yeah,
it's got like
and
bile
it's got the
and
fun factor. And it's got an old school like gypsy, like kind of talk about old school vampires and stuff. Just had like an old school gypsy you would see from an old movie who's evil, and it looked cool.
Speaking of gypsy curses and stuff, what was like the last really good werewolf movie you guys have seen?
Oh man,
it's been a while, right?
To be honest, Ginger Snaps was a really good werewolf movie.
That's probably quite a long time ago now, if I think about it.
Yeah, but to be honest, like even like the new Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, there was like cool concepts of it. Like the look of it was kind of cool, but nothing will ever like grab you like American Werewolf in London. That like you can't get like a transformation scene like that
that's
anymore.
That's still the
it's the best transformation scene ever.
And to this day, that werewolf is the one. Like when I think of a scary werewolf, that is the one that to this day still gets me. In the howl, like they manufactured something that is completely frightening.
Right,
with that werewolf.
There is a movie that came out last year. I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle for COVID. I think it's on streaming now, called The Cursed.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in like the 1880s, 1890s in England on the moors.
Yeah, I think I saw this.
Yeah, and it's not quite just a werewolf. I think it's also, it kind of reminds me of like The Thing a little bit, where the person is kind of absorbed on the inside of it. So that was kind of cool, but that was one that just kind of came and went because of COVID. It didn't get like a release.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had the director on. But yeah, I remember that being really good, and they had a real limited release. I think I saw it at the theater, but it was like I go see everything when possible. But no, I'm not a normal person.
Yeah,
I mean, I like Wolf Cop, but I mean that's more comedy than horror.
Yeah, like dude, like I do love a good wolf comedy, Teen Wolf, Teen Wolf 2. Yeah. I'll get into that. Those are two, I love those movies, both of them equally. I love Teen Wolf 2 as well.
Well, it's just great because it's literally just a guy in a suit putting on hairy gloves. And then he's like singing songs.
Yeah. Nothing quite gets me like watching watching them sing. What was it like in the first one? They sang, I can't remember what they sang, but the second one they sang "Do You Love Me?" So it was
because it was like at a college, right?
Yeah, they were at a college, and instead of they had Jason Bateman now. He played Michael J. Fox's cousin,
right?
Yeah, Teen Wolf 2. Yeah, they played with it a little. But
I like Dog Soldiers too, but again, that's 20 years.
Dog Soldiers,
Dog Soldiers, that's a good one. But see, like we have to like reach back in order to try and find what our
because it is like I think this year's the 20th anniversary, so it's not necessarily like.
I wonder if it's more of a thing where a lot of people. I mean, Neal Marshall's doing amazing stuff now. I mean, he did like so much stuff on Game of Thrones, so his career is just. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just the cost of like doing the werewolf stuff, because there's always that money shot, like we were talking about with American Werewolf in London, where it's just the one scene, and then later it's just cutting from him going like, and then like the next scene he's the wolf, because it's like you just can't do it over and over again, or just a quick shot of the hand going like this, because you can't do it for the whole movie, or you couldn't back then, but now it's like. I don't know. And maybe that's why there aren't so many werewolf movies, is because of the transformation stuff,
I think with see if you even think about though, like with American Werewolf in London, there was just the one transformation scene. Like that's all you had to show. And then the rest of it was like you just, all you had to do was throw a howl, like maybe a couple of bone cracks, and then that's it. Like that there was just the one transformation scene. And then after that, it was just them playing with that big, puppeteering that big, werewolf.
And you really barely even see the werewolf in the movie.
Yeah, that's what was so like the subway scene, like where it just you see it creeping, like it's mostly a POV, but then at the very end, as he's going up the escalator and you see it creep at the bottom, that's like one of the scariest things to me. And like you didn't see a full werewolf until practically, I think it was like the theater. Like even in the transformation scene, they alluded to it, but you never saw, like, you saw bits and pieces, but you never saw like a full werewolf. So it's, I think it is a money thing. It's definitely a money thing because, you know, those physical prosthetics cost money, and building a werewolf on CGI just cost, you know, hours with a, you know, a VFX artist.
Because, like, for an example, the werewolves that they did do CGI for the Underworld series were good looking, but they were so obviously CGI. It was like the first time you saw it in the first Underworld, it was like, wow, that's cool. But that's, again, what are we talking about, 20 years ago? So to do that now, I mean, I think you almost have to, as a filmmaker, play in the shadows, like with American Werewolf in London, because was the sequel, Paris?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Because it was like they didn't play with the shadows, and it was all, you know, CGI werewolves running around in the daytime, you know.
Around my gosh.
I don't know.
I just rewatched that. I just rewatched it because I was like, I knew it was bad because I had seen it before. No, but I was like, but was it like juvenile me thinking it was bad? Just like, oh, it's, you know, no, it's just bad. Like we can all agree that movie is just, the wolf in it isn't even scary. The comedy misses the mark because, like, the first movie was hilarious.
Oh yeah,
you know.
I love the friend who's like, you just gotta kill yourself.
He's one of the best parts of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's keeps decomposing as the movie goes on.
That's such a good gag. I love that. I love the idea, like how, like, you know, by the end of it, he's just a skeleton.
Yeah.
You know, it's so good. That movie hits on so many levels, and then whereas like Werewolf in Paris just like misses every mark so hard. Yeah. It's so bad, dude.
But again, that also begs the question too with franchises that are based around a creature like Alien, which is, the further you get away from the first two Alien movies, the more of a suck fest that it becomes, because you know, and I've made this comment before, where your creature is only ever going to be as scary as your actor's reactions will let it be. So you've got a great actress like Sigourney Weaver. You take her out and it's just people going like, no, guy in a suit, no. But it's like you have those dramatic scenes. We all think about, you know, the xenomorph head coming into the frame right by her face. And, you know, okay, the xenomorph is coming at my face. Oh, no. But you get somebody, an Academy Award, you know, level actor like her, freaking out and losing her shit. That's what makes it scary. That's what sells it. And it's like, I don't know how farther down in the franchise you go, but it's like, I was talking the other day about Prey. Prey was amazing.
Prey is so good.
But you know what? When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, God, another Predator movie. What are they going to do that hasn't been done? And then I thought, when I heard the premise, I went, Native Americans against these aliens with all this, like, how is that going to work? And then you see it and you're like, okay, I was way wrong.
I honestly think it's the best of the sequels. To me, it's right behind the first one as the best Predator movie.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'll go like Predator. The first Predator is, you know, Scott Arnold. So,
it's great.
You know, I love it. And then I'll go Prey. And then I have a soft place in my heart for part two. I don't know why. Maybe it's Danny Glover. But for some reason I like part two, and that's, I think I saw when I was a kid. I saw part two before I saw part one. So that's probably it. So that's kind of like I would always like, I end up like resting a little bit more with sequels than I do with, like, you know, a lot of initial films, and that's mostly because I probably got like my video rental like membership card like right when a lot of sequels are coming out. So so I tend to like sequels a little bit more. But yeah, Prey was phenomenal. That was such a good movie.
Yeah, it's too bad that didn't get a theatrical release. Like,
I think it's because the Shane Black, the Predator, I think because it just died a death at the box office. And then coming out of COVID, they were like, well, we're not going to get as many people just wandering into the theater as we thought, and the last one didn't make a lot of money. Let's just hedge our bets and put it on Hulu. But I'm telling you, like, if they do a sequel to Prey, which all depends on the story, if you bring back the same director, maybe, you should put that in the theater. They should really think about that, because so many people are just invested in just Prey, not even just the other Predator movies, but just Prey by itself, you know.
Yeah, that's such a good word of mouth. So, it really helped the movie, and I think people would go and support it at the theater.
They should now.
Cloverfield.
Oh no, yeah, forget the Cloverfield.
I know the director made 10 Cloverfield Lane that made Prey, but just they got to leave Cloverfield alone. That third one,
that was really.
The second one was good, Cloverfield Lane, where she got after getting away.
I probably like it better than Cloverfield. Yeah,
me too. And she got pulled in that bunker, and then she's stuck in a bunker with a serial killer. That's great. Yeah. For a horror movie. You can't do better than that.
I love that. Yeah, and then what was it? The spaceship one. What was that? Paradox. Oh my gosh, I remember thinking like this movie looks good. You know, like they're.
And didn't they plug it like
at the J.J. Abrams mystery box? That's why. Because I was like, why are they dumping this right after the Super Bowl on Netflix with no advertising? Or what? And then I watched it. I was like, this is why.
Yeah, this is why. And that's like a lot of problems I have with like a ton of movies these days. Like a lot of modern movies are like they're just resting upon the idea of like, oh well. You know, was it entertaining? Well, then that's okay. You know, because like I love a movie that's entertaining, but then I love an experience like an Eggers movie, like because those movies are entertaining on a different level. Because I feel like you're going through it with these characters, and I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of movies these days, are just resting on the idea that like, well, it looks good, it looks like a movie. All right, well, let's just put it out. You know, and I think. That's where
even like Jaws, it is a big blockbuster movie, but it's a genuinely good movie. I think a lot of the blockbusters there just
I was going to say
about the Northman. I just want to say real quick about the Northman. Sorry, before I forget, was and then we'll go to you. I'm sorry. I always loved sword and sorcery movies when I was a kid, and then like the last several decades are all just campy and stupid, so it was nice to see like an actual adult one made again, kind of like Excalibur or the original Conan.
Oh yeah, Northman is incredible. Nothing like having a guy jump off of a fort wall that he's scaled himself and then jump onto a guy from that ledge of the fort and then hatchet him in the neck all in one move.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's stunt work, but it's just like you're watching it going like, I just watched him literally climb up using the hatchets, get up there, and then jump off, and then just tackle a guy on a horse that's moving, and then right in the neck, all in like, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Holy
Nothing
shit,
gets me
stuff like that anymore.
Nothing gets me like a good revenge movie, you know, like a good hard edge revenge flick. Like in that movie, that movie has all of my favorite things, which is like it's got like some of the best like believable gore that you could see. It's got an amazing like front, you know, like your lead Skarsgård is just, he does such a good job. And then too, like the incredible shape that dude got into through like during a pandemic, like that dude, like he dedicated himself completely and fully to that role. And that's why like that is like one of my it's in my top 5 of this year for sure, with like Top Gun. Top Gun was
I didn't think it would be, but it was.
X blew me away. X is like one of my like it's not only like one of my favorite Ty West movies, like in general, it's just like it's probably like it's in my top 10 of like horror films. It was just so well done. I love X.
Yeah. Pearl comes out this week, and then they just announced they're doing a third one. He's doing the third one. I like the idea that it's going to flip around different times.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. But there's another shot in the Northman where to speak on what Richard was saying about revenge. It's the first time we see the main character grown up, and it's that crane shot coming across the boat and going through.
Oh yeah.
And it's just the shot ends on him with the oar going like this.
Yeah.
And it's just like you see his face, and I remember being in the theater and just I don't know wherever I had my snack or whatever. I'm just slowly sitting it down and like looking at his face and going like, oh fuck. Oh, this is not going to end well for wherever these boats are going. Those people, they're so fucked. Because it's his face where he's just like,
yeah, it's like
performance, man. It's like, oh Jesus, those people are fucked.
You're like either like, oh man, this guy, he just has like an urge to like kill a lot of people, or he has to take a massive shit. Either way, maybe it's both, because like maybe that's what's driving him, even more. I don't know, but like, the intensity. Yeah, he's like, I gotta go. I gotta take a shit first, and then I gotta kill a bunch of people. But first, I gotta take a shit.
Transform into a bear or whatever that tribal thing was. But to speak about another franchise, which I hope they kind of ended well, and I hope they don't continue. And this is a different idiom too, which is ghost stories, hauntings, which is The Conjuring. I thought those were really good. Maybe the first two with James Wan were a little bit better, but that was a great series. I'm like, okay, pump the brakes. You've got 3. I think
all the spin-offs.
If you do another one, you're really tempting fate.
Yeah, like I think I like the second one better than the first one even. Like I think the first one was the first one's great, don't get me wrong, and it's still pretty scary, but the second one just had that look, like the look of it was so good. And I for some reason there was just a lot more like for me a lot more like horrifying images in it.
Right.
The third one, to be honest, like I saw it once and it's pretty forgettable. Like even right now in my head, as I'm trying to remember scenes from it, I think that's like the cheesiest of them all, is like the third one. But I do agree that it is a solid franchise though. I think those 3 movies, the Annabelle movies, I remember thinking that the Annabelle Creation, I think, was it there was like a Annabelle and then Annabelle Creation, which I think was like the prequel one. I remember thinking that one was a little bit cooler.
That's got a lot of weird stuff in it, right? Like it's got a werewolf or something in it.
It's got some weird shit in it, but it is those movies to me are like, they, like you said, I agree that they did their job. The series itself is like, I feel like it is like, you guys have milked this cow as much as it can be milked. I think it's time to, let the cow rest.
Well, because and to piggyback on what you said, I feel like if you don't have somebody on the level of a James Wan come back to a 4th one, then I think after the 3rd one, you're just going to have diminishing returns, because he set the bar so high with those first 2.
It's true.
And now that he's, making Aquaman movies until the end of time, I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah.
They're
Malignant, right?
He did do Malignant. Yeah. That was kind of like that was like what cool. Sam.
I really liked it. It's totally weird. Yeah, that was like one of the weirdest movies I saw in like a mainstream film.
Mm-hmm. I think it's funny. I think like every director, when they go off and do like big movies, it's like Sam Raimi went off and did Spider-Man, and he lived with Spider-Man for so long, and he's like, I just need to do like a fucking gross out horror film, and that's where like Drag Me to Hell came in. So it's like, I see like James Wan, he was like, I can do the big budget stuff. He's like, I just need to do one that's that's a little bit close to the best.
And I agree with that. I think that a lot of directors feel like that too, that it's just like, just to go and do something fun, because I kind of liken that to like Danny Elfman. He'll make soundtracks forever, but like he dropped an album last year and showed up at Coachella, and people were like, who's this guy? Is this guy with the red hair and all the tattoos playing guitar? Like, is that somebody's grandpa? Like, who is that?
Dude, and Elfman's like Northman ripped right now too, so he just goes on stage like shirtless.
It's like insane. Like he's like 70 years old, and he comes on stage and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna play Nightmare Before Christmas now." And you're like, "Oh damn, dude! He's either gonna kill a bunch of people that have to take a shit, or play an epic album." I know. Like when I first started seeing YouTube clips from the Coachella, I'm like, "Is this gonna be like an Alice Cooper thing where he just comes out and like there's like a guillotine, and then people get shot and stabbed on stage, because it was like that was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, no, like Elfman's like, yeah, he definitely. I love where he's at right now. But yeah, it is. I think it's important to like you go and you do the movies that are like that get you your money, but then you go to the fun ones. You go back to it because those are the ones that teach you things. Those are the ones that like it's kind of like what we're doing now, like like working in the indie world. Like I've been in this business now for like 6 years, and it's taught me so much. Like making like being able to make a movie with like limited means is probably some of the best. It's some of the best like tools you can have in the filmmaking world, because it'll help you on the spot come up with things that otherwise you wouldn't think of if you just had like millions of dollars thrown at you. And that's why like making movies like Holly Hatchet, or like making the Malvolia Halloween specials and all that, like that to me is like it is rewarding in the sense that like they teach me so much, and also working with like talented people. Like I love collaborating and like working with like talented people, and like being able to like get that energy and like use it and like project it out there, and like and create like a happy set, like a set that is just rewarding. Like that to me is like that's what makes it so much fun to make movies. It's like is not only like the material, but also just the people and the attitude. It's yeah.
And to add on to what you were saying, Richard, I worked on a film about 15, 20 years ago called Resurrection Mary outside of Detroit. And one of the things I really liked, both the producer and the director told me at different times, they don't like hearing the phrase like, I can't, or we can't, or there's no way. Because even though, I was in my 20s then, and they were in their 40s, making a film, they said, yeah, but when we started and we were actors and PAs on movies, in the 80s, we said, we can't, we don't know, there's no way. But you know what? There's always a way to get around things, because I kind of roll my eyes at a lot of people coming out of like film schools and colleges now that say like, I can't, there's no way. And I think, you just hold up an iPhone and you go, do you have any idea like what you can do with this thing that wasn't even possible 10 years ago? Like there are shorts, and in some cases even feature films being made with iPhones, or not something that much better, that it wasn't even possible 10 years ago. I think there's just a lot of this thing where like, and I hate this expression too, and you guys have probably heard it, which is we'll just fix it in post.
The famous last words. That like, whenever you say that, like you find out really quickly, like it's going to be more expensive if you have to try and fix it in post. You might as well try and figure it out, and then leave that be like the last option, like the very last avenue that you'll have to go down. But the fix it in post.
Very few people can get away with that, and usually their names are George Lucas and only George Lucas, right, when he was still making movies. And even then, I was like, I don't think that turned out as well as we thought it would. Rich, I think that letting ILM just fix your movie, doesn't always work, man.
Yeah. It might be too early, but do you know what the plans are for Body Count once it's finished? Like, is it going to streaming, festivals, physical release?
I think Jen has talked about festivals. I know that there probably will be some streaming involved, but I think that I'll ask Richard. I think this is only the second of the 4 anthology stories to be filmed, right? I think there's still 2 more after this one, so they're still going to be working on this late into the year. So
and I think with the idea like is like we would love to get this thing out there like on physical media and all that, but like really like when it comes to like these like micro budget films, I think it finds its momentum in festivals, because like you can go out there, you can talk to fans directly, like people that actually love like horror films, and And especially these kind of horror films, which are like, they fall into like little like niches, you know, like, so like I think it is good to like get, especially a movie like this, out there into a festival, so this way you can meet people that are like-minded individuals that are either like filmmakers that are trying to like, you know, get out there and make their own movies, or, you know, just like massive horror fans. So yeah, I think Jen's idea is to do that, and, you know, hopefully we get some, you know, distribution for it and it gets out there. And because I love physical media, and I would totally buy a copy of this, not just because I'm directing a part of it, but also to support, you know, fellow, you know, people that are trying to get out there and, you know, make stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the main things I missed during the pandemic, were the festivals. Like everything you said, you know, going to see the movie, meeting like-minded people who all love the genre, and then talk about the movies after, and it's just a great time. So I was at my first one since the pandemic just recently, is Fright Fest. It was a very exciting time.
How cool, was man. That? Was it kind of like a beehive, where people just so happy to just be?
Yeah, it was. I was there in 2000. I forget, 2017 or 18. And as press, and it's a huge place. And this time I was there with a movie, so that was a very different experience. It was very exciting, but that one's huge. There's something to be said about a little smaller festival, because I think everyone watches everything on the same screen, and I kind of like that. But this is a like multiple screen, multiple theater festival, and like you said, everyone was really excited to just be out, and not only a festival, you know, the after parties, just, you know, being out again with people and talking about the movies. It was, yeah, you could definitely feel that. And then you know, during the pandemic, you realize how much you miss this stuff, and then you can, you know, you don't want to take it for granted.
Yeah, that's very true, man. I went to a film festival on Saturday to support. There was a movie I DP'd like right when the pandemic hit. It's called Drift. It's a short. And then there was another short that I helped light. So I went to my first festival on Saturday, and that was, yeah, it's just like you miss the atmosphere of creatives, you know, people, like-minded people that are just, you know, same as we're all trying to do, just get our content out there, get our visions, you know. It was nice.
Yeah. So what are you guys working together on anything after this?
I don't know about together. I have something coming up, but I'll let Richard go ahead and take it if he's got something he's got coming up here.
Well, we can always, in the world of independent filmmaking, we can always work together. We could do that. we can do that. But yeah, I have so my other job that I do besides, like, you know, directing and DPing is I light. So I'll do gaffing or, like, you know, electrician work. So I'm going to be working on a feature with a fellow independent filmmaker, Alex Wong. I'm going to be working with him in October it's like an action thriller. So I'm going to be working on that, and working alongside my good friend Deep, who's a director of photography, Adam Beck. He's such a good, I love working with that guy. So I'm gonna be helping him light some stuff, which is always fun to me, crafting that world in a different way. Lighting is so important. And it's also something that I feel like a lot of movies don't do these days. It's just like, you know, it's just, everything is just dark. You know, if it's a horror film, it's dark, you know.
That's something I think it can add a lot of production value to a movie. Makes it look like, you know, it's a bigger production if it's well lit.
Yeah, they can call it natural 100%. Lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. I like stylized lighting, you know, like I mean, there's always a time and a place for, if you need to make something look dark, you know, like, you know, that's cool, but, you know, not all the time. Like you need some good stylized stuff. Like, you know, all the great horror films of the past had some sort of stylized lighting. It wasn't all just dark, you know, everything looked good and had its own look to it, its own feel. So, but yeah, that's what I'm working on next. I'm going to be working on the feature, and then I have a couple of scripts that I'm writing right now, a couple of shorts that I want to do, because I also want to get some movies out into festival circuits. So, yeah.
Awesome. For me, I'm working with a production company in Arizona called Morehouse Films, getting ready to work on a short film that I wrote called The Phone at the Door. and that's going to be directed by Joshua Schultz and in collaboration with his amazing wife, Sarah Schultz. So that's kind of already been written, and they're just like really, really early pre-production on that. So hopefully by the end of the year, that'll be getting filmed out there in Arizona. So I'm excited about that. That's the next thing for me.
Yeah. And you also have a podcast.
Yeah, I do have a podcast. So if anybody's watching, please watch Make Your Own Fun. And we have a comedy segment, and we also do interviews, and we do funny little skits and stuff too. So we just started that a year and a half ago, and it's really been picking up steam in the last 6 months. We're really happy with it.
I heard the treacherous one was just on there.
Yeah.
Treacherous
Trista.
Yeah.
She was great. She praised your show very highly. She said, I guess just about 2 years she's been on the show with you guys.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years the other summer. So yeah, just probably about a month ago, it was 2 years.
Very cool. Very cool. She's so super positive and supportive of everybody and all their projects. You know, she's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Trista's great. She's great to work with. Yeah, I really like her attitude. She's awesome.
Yeah.
And she's a huge
thank her for
go-getter,
suggesting you guys to come on the show and setting this up.
Oh yeah. We'll have to reach out and thank her for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Where can people follow you guys to see what you're up to? Like not back to your homes. Unless you're into that.
That's a different movie altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, please put my address right here.
Currently right here, right now.
Yeah, please come here. Dial your Uber into here to this pinpoint. No, go ahead, Eric. You've been so gracious to let me.
Make Your Own Fun is on YouTube, and you can also find me on Facebook right now. No website just yet. I'm gonna be working on that soon, though.
Yeah, you could find me on Instagram and Facebook, all of the stuff. Just Richard Trejo.
Very cool. Well, this is very good to talk with you guys. I'm sure we'll do it again sometime.
Thank you so much, Neal. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Oh, by the way, for new movies, I would suggest Barbarian.
Oh, I want to see that.
Oh, I want to see that. Yeah, I got to check that out. I heard it's good.
It's a really wild movie to be at in the theaters. But go in blind. Don't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch any trailer.
Yeah.